Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final live show of the day. Obviously, I'm Mike of Brit Bowling Podcast, joined by Coach Adam Wilkin, who's also of the Brit Bowling Podcast. How you doing, Adam?
I'm good, mate. Tired, but good. We're getting there.
Tired, but good. Last live one of the day. So obviously we're doing this on behalf of the BAFCA Coaching Convention. This is the first one you're seeing. There's loads of good content over the past couple of days and loads more to come. Adam can drop down the schedule below and we'll have that running across. So there's been loads of live chats today and there's going to be loads of more videos going on the BAFCA page tomorrow as well as on Friday. So just go on there, have a look. And if you want today, any comments, feel free to drop us a comment, drop us a question for our guest or whatever that may be. Anything, and we'll try and answer as many as possible. So we appreciate the engagement. The engagement obviously means usually for a better video and better content for you all, and you can get don't feel like any question's stupid. Adam will ask the most stupid questions anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. Yeah. So if you ever feel stupid, just look at me and Adam, and you'll be fine. So today for this live session, we're going to be talking wide receivers, and we're a pleasure to be joined by Mike Vannucci. Have I said that right, Mike?
Yes, sir, you did. How you guys doing?
Yeah, very good, mate. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the BAFCA convention. It is virtual. Hopefully, maybe next year it won't be so virtual in a normal world. So, how are you doing? And for anyone who don't know, who's Mike Vannucci?
I'm very well. Nice to see you guys. I'm really excited to be able to speak at such a cool event. I've been working with some of the guys from the Great Britain National Program through Coach Hill. That's been awesome. There's been a really great engagement between myself and some of the players and some of the coaches as well. I know Coach Mead was on there a bunch, and there was some really good dialogue going on with that. And I think there was some personal growth and athletic growth on both ends as well. So, I mean, it's been nothing but positive there, and that kind of led us to this. So I'm going to jump right in here. And, I'll start with an intro, of course, but, the basis of what this presentation is putting drills together, selecting proper drills, doing the drills properly to get maximal transfer to the full routes, because ultimately that's what we want to do. We want to be able to run efficient routes. So finding the drills, doing the drills appropriately, to help transfer into the full route. We've kind of put a system together that we do. We have our everyday drills based on what we're doing that day, and it's worked wonders for our guys. And you'll see here at the bottom, you see the drills of the routes. We'll touch upon that later in the presentation. So just a quick intro about myself. My name is Mike Vannucci. I played high school football at a small high school in Plainedge High School in New York. I went to William Patterson University, small school in New Jersey. Played my college football there. I was then fortunate enough to go play in Europe for the Guelfi Firenze in Florence for 3 years. Was very successful there. Had a great time. Met a lot of great people who I'm very close with today. I then was coaching at Plainedge High School during the summers and the falls that I was home, because the Italian season timed up very well with that. I was able to spend some time at an NCAA Division II school coaching receivers and special teams. I'm now at Oceanside High School, another high school in Long Island. And during the past 2 years, I've been running the Long Island Wide Receiver Academy full-time. It's been my full-time job, pretty much just working with receivers, helping them get into colleges, all sorts of things like that, which is part of the reason why I got out of the college thing, because I wanted to pursue that business and kind of run my own business doing so. I enjoy the relationships I'm able to build through that. We are off here. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. I apologize.
Oh, you don't have to apologize to us, mate. It's fine. Don't worry.
Where is this must have skipped the agenda. Okay, so here we go. Presentation agenda. So first thing, the intro, which we just went over. Then we're going to talk about what indicators are, because you're going to hear me use that word 1,000 times. So I wanted to discuss that with you, and it's an important concept to grasp as wide receivers. We're then going to talk about hard breaks, what they are, and how to get better at them. And we're going to talk about speed cuts, what they are, when to use them, how to get better at them. Then obviously we'll have a Q&A, which I'm sure will be scattered throughout this entire presentation as well. But for at the end, if you guys have any questions unrelated to what we're speaking about, anything receiver play, you guys feel free to ask them. The objectives of the presentation, decipher between the two different break points that we're going to go over today, a hard break and a speed cut, and when to use them. Provide and enhance your knowledge on how to improve these breakpoints from the ground up, right? Building the house, you build the foundation before anything else. And then provide each viewer the knowledge on performing these specific drills on their own. So you're going to take this knowledge, be able to apply it immediately. That is the goal of this presentation. Intro we went over. So when you hear me speak about indicators, okay, we want to eliminate indicators for the DB. An indicator meaning something that tells the defensive back that my vertical stem is done and I'm about to initiate a break point. These are things that we want to eliminate. Everything should look like a vertical until it's not. I'm sure you guys have heard that terminology. It's been thrown around a ton on social media. So any indicator is a change in stride, an abrupt change of height, right? When you go from your drive phase or acceleration to max velocity, you're naturally going to gradually rise up, no different than a sprinter coming out of the blocks. But any abrupt change of height, like a slight rise prior to breaking, these are things we want to eliminate. My eye discipline, right? When I'm in my vertical stem, I want to be staring right through my cover defender. I don't want to be staring at where my break point's going to be. And then any abrupt change in speed, losing speed prior to break point. These are common things that we want to avoid prior to our break. The caveat to that being, you can do all these things on the contrary to throw off the cornerback. What I mean by that is you can change your stride. Like a guy like Keenan Allen does this stuff all the time in his routes, in his stem. He works a little hezzy. You could change your height like a stutter and go. You can change your eyes. You could use your eyes as a weapon on double moves against defensive backs, and you can change your speed and alter the tempo. But what we're talking about right now is straight vertical stem into a break point. As wideouts, we have to eliminate all of these indicators. And this bullet point here, if we froze our film prior to the break point, we shouldn't know you're breaking. Here's a really great video of it. Here's Jerry Rice. This is like from some old school practice film. But I'm going to freeze the video right before his trigger step. Right? So this, well, there's a little too late there, but this is right before he's about to sink his hips. There's no indicator. You cannot tell that a break is coming. That's what we mean by no indicators. When you guys are filming your own routes, if you have the luxury to do so, you should be able to do this, and then you hit play, there's your break point. Okay, you should not be able to know what route you're running or that a break is even coming. It should look like you were continuing on your vertical stem to run a go ball or a fade ball. Here's another example. So one thing you're going to notice throughout this entire presentation, I'm not just going to stand up here and show you the freaks of the world doing this, okay? Because, of course, Julio Jones and Devontae Adams are going to look good doing this stuff. They are borderline aliens, okay? I'm going to show you high school guys. I'm going to show you Division III college guys doing the same thing that we're preaching, doing the same thing that the guys in the NFL are doing, okay? It's really easy to sit here and show you Jerry Rice doing things. But throughout this entire presentation, it's going to bounce back and forth from NFL guys to the guys that we are fortunate enough to work with. So just here's another example of a no indicator before we get into the break points and the drill work. Sudden, right? Stays in attack mode. We won't even talk about the release. We're not going to get into releases today because that's a whole presentation on its own. But he single jabs, and now it's vertical until the break point, and nothing can change in his stride. Sudden snap, slip underneath. Okay, so those are our indicators. You're going to hear me mention that word a bunch throughout this presentation. So we're going to talk about two different break points today. The first one is what we refer to as hard breaks. And what that means is there's a violent and sudden descent of the hips. The hips are dropping in order to initiate and efficiently run the break point. We're working in whole foot ground contacts. We are not on our toes, okay? I did not come up with this. This is physics. If you have a problem with it, you can reach out to Mr. Newton's ancestors and figure that out. The larger the surface area, the more force you can absorb. That is what decelerating is. That is why freaks like Julio Jones can stop on a dime, because they can absorb force much more efficiently than normal human beings can. Okay, force absorption, force production, whole foot in the ground in our break points. Our hips and chest are going to be on a string. And what I mean by that is it's never just dumping my chest forward. It's never just squatting my hips down. As my hips drop, my chest is going to come forward. They're always working together. It's never one without the other. With that being said, our hips are going to drop and our chest is going to get over our toes. But Julio's a freak. Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill don't look the same in their break point because their anthropometrics are different, right? Mike Evans is 6'3", 6'4". Tyreek Hill is 5'10" on a good day. They don't need to look the same in the break point. However, both of their hips are going to drop. Both of their chests are going to get over. They might not be at the same angle, though, if that makes sense. Even to dive deeper into it, you can have two guys the same height that might not look the same because one guy's femur length is longer than the others. One guy's torso length is longer than the others. So you don't want to make everybody look exactly the same. You just want to check these certain boxes, and we'll dive into them as we move forward. Attack, drop, rotate, drive. We're going to talk about this, which is key for us later in the presentation. And then we don't beat the drums in the break point. Okay, I know that's kind of a foreign thought process. A lot of coaches hate when I talk about that, but I'm gonna give you my reason why, and we'll open a dialogue about it. And I'll show you a bunch of video clips as well. Examples of hard breaks. We're talking about a curl, come back, square dig, square out, even your post curl when you're getting out of your post and you're dropping your hips to run back through the quarterback, stuff like that. So those are examples of our hard breaks. Okay, and just some video examples. So here's Julio. It's working a deep out, square out, attacking vertical, no indicators, bang, frozen right at his. So here's his trigger step, his snap down, which we're going to talk about next. That's going to be the first drill we talk about. Chest is over, hips are down, arms are tight. He's not beating the drum. Okay, and then he's going to drive out. So that's a hard break, a violent, sudden descent to the hips to get out of the break point. To be able to break at 90 degrees, running full speed, 15 yards down the field, your hips have to change levels. Your chest has to get over to a certain degree. Julio is a freak of nature. That's why he folds up like a damn lawn chair, okay? Not everybody is going to be able to get in this body position, and that's okay. But the hips need to drop. The chest has to get over.
And I noticed that he doesn't do that till he's on the hip of that cornerback as well. I mean, it might be patterned to what I'm assuming at the NFL. It's not a 15-yard as such. That's probably as soon as you get to that hip, then you break.
Yeah, it could. There's a lot of things where it's on their depths are on toes, right? Like sometimes they don't even have true route depths in the NFL. More so on like posts and corners and stuff like that. They will run. The Falcons all 22 is real fun to watch. They'll run 25-yard out routes. Like it's pretty freaky stuff. But so we're going to talk about the other type of square, the other type of 90-degree cut here. Like Julio, which is a speed cut, and there's a distinct reason why Julio can't speed cut this, and we'll go back to that when we get to the speed cuts. And then here's another example of a hard break. Here's Marvin Harrison working a comeback. Working a real good corner too. And just keep this in your back pocket here. We talk about not beating the drums in our break point. Just watch Marvin Harrison's arms. Keep it in your back pocket. We'll dive into it a little bit later. And then just one more. Here's a stop route by Keenan Allen. He's at the bottom of your screen here. So they're all the same things. Deep out from Ridley. Here's that deep out we were just speaking about. These are all hard breaks. The hips have to drop suddenly. My chest has to get over. We're putting tons of force into the ground. Okay? So the first drill we do to work this, we're talking ground level stuff. The first drill we do to work this is a snap down drill. It's a single step we're working. This step is our main decelerator. It's the first foot that triggers our break point. We're pulling our hips and chest down on this first step. Tons of force absorption. All of our spikes are in the ground, okay? We're never on our toes. You cannot produce and absorb force from your toes. If you could, everybody would be vertical jumping off their toes. They wouldn't be loading into their post chain at all, okay? The drill work, it's a rhythmic approach with a sudden punch. Like we said, that foot is bringing the hip and chest. They're on a string. When you initiate your deceleration, it is normal for the foot to strike slightly in front of the hips, but there is a large point of diminishing returns the further out that foot gets from your center of mass. When you watch these freaks, they're able to absorb force a little bit more efficiently than the normal people. So you might see Julio once in a while, his foot, he trigger steps 2 yards out in front of his body. That's not ideal. Like if you have a 14-year-old kid who's never done this before trying to do that, it's going to be a little bit of a mess. So just keep that in mind, okay? We have 4 progressions with this drill. We have the single snap down. We have a snap 1, a snap 1-2, and a snap 1-2 with rotation. We're going to go over each one of those progressions. So just an example of a trigger step. Here's Jerry Rice running a fallout or a hinge. There's his trigger, right? That's the main decelerator. Takes you from full speed sprint in your vertical stem, violent drop of hips. Here's your trigger step right here on his left foot. Pulls his hips and chest down before he exits his break point. Let it play at full speed. So this drill, very simple drill. You'll find guys still have a little bit of difficulty with it, even though it looks so simple. And this is an everyday drill for us. Pro guys, Division I college guys, high school guys. Every day. The volume might change, but it's something we do every day. It's borderline an extension of our warm-up at this point. So we're going to approach the cones rhythmically. We would like arm action here. Ideally, our elbow is going to clear our spine to simulate full speed arm action right into hips down, chest down, arms down. Pulling ourselves down on the foot. We want to bring the hip and the chest down onto the foot. We're going to hold this position for a split second to realize that position. We're going to marry this position. This is where we're going to live at during any hard break. Retreat and repeat. We'll have the guys go right or left foot on this side. 1, 2, 3. And then there's another green cone here. Opposite foot 3 times down the other side. And then they'll exit straight out for a football. But the angle of the throw is arbitrary. You could go pat and go on the exit. You can throw from the side on the exit, work different hands mechanics. It's really whatever you prefer. But a simple drill, getting guys to initiate that break point, pull their hips down with their chest on that lead foot. You'll notice all of these guys have their whole foot into the ground. Just here's an example of one of our guys working a snap down. Punch, 1, 2, runs out. Punch, 1, 2. Slow it down for you guys. Snap, 1, 2, drive out. It's a 15-year-old kid, not Julio Jones.
So, just on that one, would the next thing from what I'm sensing from you there, would you work on that head movement then, I'm assuming, at the end? Because that's, with the key indicator, I think you said, as a bit of the giveaway.
Him snapping a little bit?
Yeah, with his head.
Yeah, yes, a little bit. He could not move his head at all. I mean, I'm not gonna hammer that down a ton unless it's starting to become a problem. Like he hasn't had any of his stuff jumped really, just because it's literally happening as the trigger is happening. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if it was happening like prior to it, then I think we have a problem. But I think it's happening at the same time as it. So I'm not really going to address it a ton. If the arm starts rising up early, like coming outside or coming up before we drop, that's more common. That's a more common issue. But if it's happening all in one motion, yes. If it's super drastic, we'll address it. Does that make sense?
Got you. Yeah, got you.
So the next progression here is just adding the second step. We don't get out of break points in a single snap. So now we're going to try and get closer and closer to the actual break point within this drill. The beauty of this drill is that it's starting to give guys that rhythm in the break point. Okay? You're starting to feel where your feet should be striking, the whole foot in the ground, finding that appropriate body position for each receiver. Okay? So the main thing about this, nothing changes about that initial snap down. Okay? It's the same drill. We're just adding that second step. The second step is always going to gain a little bit of ground. And what I mean by that is when we're in break point in any hard break, my feet, if you can watch my cursor here, my feet are never just striking next to each other continuously. They're always going to gain a little bit of ground, if that makes sense. In this drill, we like to give guys just like a landmark because we are in control. It's a low-level drill. My big toe of my previous foot should be at more, I should say, my inside of my ankle bone, my malleolus should be in line with the big toe of my previous foot. So if I'm snapping down on my left, my right foot ankle bone should be even with the big toe on my left foot. I'll show you guys what I mean by that in the video. Just as before, whole foot ground contact. We're never on our toes. And then marry the break, meaning whatever height I enter at, I'm exiting at. So whatever height I pull myself down on that trigger step, I want to stay at throughout the entire break point. If I get lower or taller in that break point, I'm taking away from where I want to go, okay? Because I'm not trying to get up or down. I'm trying to break it 90 or 45 for the most part. Okay, so I want to marry the break. Wherever I'm at on that trigger, that's where I'm at. There's no more upper body movement in the break point. Punch one. Punch one. Punch one. So this is the first exposure they have to really work in a hard break. We'll never just go out there and say, all right, we got comebacks today. Let's go run comebacks. Okay. It's the first exposure they have to any hard break. They're finding the rhythm. They're finding the proper ground contact. They're finding their proper body position. Next progression, second and last progression, just adding the third step now. So now we just add the third step. We'll get about 2 to 3 times through with each variation. We're just adding that third step. Now we're kind of getting specific to break point mechanics. Punch 1-2 or snap 1-2 is a very common break point, more so on 90-degree breaks than 45s. 45s are tough to get out in 3. Nothing's changing about our snap down or second step, just like the previous variation. We're getting more specific to the break point rhythm and cadence. Whole foot ground contact, we're gaining ground just like last time, and we're marrying the break. So nothing really changes. We're just adding that third step. Punch 1-2. Whole foot in the ground. Each step is gaining a little bit of ground here. Punch 1-2. So nothing fancy, nothing rocket science. Like, we don't do these fancy drills you see on Instagram and all these crazy things, guys running through a bunch of ladders and cones. We reverse engineer it, right? So we take the route, we break it down backwards. We look at the break point, we break the break point down. And just here's some examples, more hard breaks. Michael Gallup. Let me fast forward this here. Okay, so here he is, vertical stem, attack, attack, attack. He's going to 4-step break point this, meaning he breaks on his inside foot on a curl. Punch 1, 2, 3. Punch, arms tight, hips down, chest over. 1, 2, 3. More of a stop than a curl, doesn't run through. And then here's an example of one of our college guys, a freshman at a junior college. Don't mind the the guy's filming here. He's a college kid's filming. So here's essentially the same break point that we just worked. You'll notice there's a bit of rotation in the break, which is the final variation. And we're going to talk about the importance of it. But punch 1, 2, runs out of it. Really nice job running out of the break point. All right, so the last variation of this drill before we move on is adding rotation in the break point. You'll see these pictures here. Devontae Adams snaps down. He enters square, starts turning hips, shoulders, feet in the break point. I don't know if anybody's ever tried to break back downhill at 45 degrees facing completely forwards. It's really hard. And that's when you'll start hearing guys say, I got stuck, or you'll see guys starting to round their break point, because it is impossible to get your hip abducted a full, technically, 135 degrees back downhill to the quarterback, okay? When we start turning in that break point, it's a lot easier to run out of it now, okay? So nothing's going to change about our foot cadence in the drill. We want to enter square on our snap down. We don't want to start rotating on that trigger or snap down, because that's a lot of torque in the knee joint. We want to avoid that. We're going to start rotating on steps 2 and 3 in the drill. We don't need to turn a full 90 degrees. We just can't be facing square when we exit. And here's some examples of that rotation in the break point. So there's Calvin Ridley's trigger step. You're going to watch him just start to turn slightly so he's able to run out of it. Starts getting the left hip, left foot, left shoulder turn, finishes with right hip, right foot, right shoulder. Devontae Adams, same thing. 4-step break. 45s are harder than 90s. Vertical stem. Punch square. Everything's square. Okay. Arms tight, hips down, chest over. Starts to turn in break point. Starts to turn in break point. Okay. Now it's easier to get out of. Understood? If he had to run out of this thing, he's in a much better position to do so. Luckily, he doesn't have to because Rodgers is on time. But if he was facing forward still while trying to break this back to the quarterback, it would take him forever to get back downhill. Okay, so this is something that's it's not really taught. It's starting to be taught more often. I don't know if you guys know. I'm sure you do. As an import, you have a lot of free time, a lot of downtime. Like we would work out and we would have practice 2 times a week. I would just watch NFL games over and over and over again. And I started noticing guys started turning in their breaks. I'm like, there's got to be something to this. And I'm watching the Zoom during quarantine, and it might have been the NC State wide receiver coach. I don't remember who. And all his drill work, all his guys are turning in. And I asked him if he teaches them. Do you teach them to do that? He said, no, they kind of just do it on their own. Okay, it must be nice. Guys just figuring shit out on their own. Sorry for cursing. But so we started implementing it, and it has made a huge difference to our guys. It takes some getting used to, though, because it's such a foreign concept. But here's the example of it. So it's the same exact drill that you just saw 3 variations of. You're just going to start turning on step 2 and 3 now. Punch 1, 2, hold it. So you'll see this kid here, right? He gets his hips and this is common. It's hard to get all three rotated. He gets his hips and shoulders turned, but watch his last foot, right? Still pointed forward. So should he have to get back downhill, he'd probably get a little stuck doing it. We'd want to get this, what we call our ankle eye, that inside ankle bone, in a direct line to where we want to break to. Sorry, I'll let you guys. Okay, another video actually. Punch 1, 2. Punch 1, 2. Nothing changes about the cadence. Nothing changes about the foot placement. Nothing changes about the body mechanics. Just start turning in it a tiny bit. Snap. Start. This kid rotates a ton. So there's his snap. Trigger, rotate, drive. Runs out of it. Let it play full speed.
So you could even see on that last one, I wouldn't describe it as the quickest break I've ever seen, but because he's on that angle and he's so quick, he
Runs
almost,
out of it.
you wouldn't say it's the fastest break, but he still gets that separation because he's on that angle and he's cutting in, isn't it?
He's able to run out of it.
Yeah.
So the other break point here he could have worked is like what we call a snap speed cut, where you don't even put the second foot down. And we'll talk about that later in the presentation. Where you just kind of roll off this outside foot and just there's no breakdown really. We'll talk about that. But as far as a square cut goes, this is really, really efficient stuff. To be running full speed and just stop like that is difficult. But yeah, like the point of the rotation in it is to run out of it. Like to the naked eye, it shouldn't look like you come to a full stop, if that makes sense. It could be similar. We definitely want to push the John. We definitely want to be probably pushing off that inside edge of our foot. And we do a drill that we don't have on film because we just started doing it. That actually entails one of the cues is you should feel like you're pushing the ground away as you're driving out. And then here it is on a curl. Same thing, Mike, you're going to see the same thing here where he's able to run out of this break. Punch 1, 2, 3, and he's able to run out rather than face it completely square.
You could just see the impact it's having on the defensive back. The defensive back has just got eyes on that. Looks like he's almost going to flip his hips to turn, go deep.
Yep.
And then he's just, because he stopped so suddenly, just you can see
so
the difference.
So there are some people that refer to this as a false acceleration step because the violence of it like triggers the DB to kind of bail a little bit. The violence of that trigger step, of that snap down, the punch step. You'll hear guys, those are the 4 most common names for it. You speak to 10 different people, you're going to get 10 different names. But yeah, you'll notice that like the false acceleration step, the punch step, it like triggers them, right, to back up because of the violence of it.
That's just more natural instinct than anything, isn't it? Which is even better because it doesn't matter how skilled you are, it's really difficult to avoid.
100%. 100%. So now we progress. Okay, so that's one drill, everyday drill. Do it every day, no matter what. The volume might change. You might go through 1 time each, might go through 4 times each. It's really based on who's there, who's at that training session. Now we're going to progress to this is our money drill. Okay, I've yet to meet or work with a guy who could not do this comfortably and smoothly and not be able to run a hard break. Okay, so these are short to long drops is what we call them. The short drops, the Ravens actually there's a video that they just posted of their wideouts doing the short drop drill. The short drop drill is a punch 1 cadence or a snap 1 cadence, just like everything else, whole foot ground contact. We're working violent and sudden hips, as sudden as we can get them down as possible. You want to think about flinching or twitching rather than squatting. It's not a slow movement. It's like a flinch or twitch down, okay? And we want to hold that position before repeating it. We're going to get 3 to 4 short drops before progressing to the long drops. Okay, I'm just going to go to the next slide so you can see the short drops before coming back to this. So here's an example of the short drops. I love this clip because this is 2 different skill levels with like very this kid was a high school kid on the right. He's playing Division III college football. This is an FBS scholarship wide receiver on the left. One kid's 5'9", the other kid's 6'4". They look very similar. Okay. This is our short drop drill. Okay. So that's the short drop, and it'll go right into the long drop drill, and I'll show you guys a video of the full thing after this. So after you finish those 3 to 4 short drops, you're going to reset, and now you're in a vertical stem. Okay, you're in straight up attack mode. You're going to approach a cone at whatever depth you want it to be. I'd say probably 7 to 8 yards plus. That way guys can open up their stride. And we're working violent, sudden hips. Okay. The caveat to this drill is we're not worried about what foot you trigger on. We're not worried about how many steps. What we want is you to find that comfortable position. We want whatever foot that you're triggering or snapping down on to pull you into that position, chest over, hips down, arms tight. You're thinking attack in your stem, smooth in your break. Do not chop or reach for the cones. If you have to break before them or break after, that's fine. They're just landmarks. Don't let the cones dictate the drill, if you will. We're going to control that break point and repeat it, and then you'll finish. We like to finish with an over-the-shoulder ball, sub-maximally like a pat and go. And I'll show the full drill in a second. So here's the full drill. You got a lot of guys. You can get multiple drills set up at the same time. We have 2 guys go at the same time, and then 1 guy will exit. When he finishes, the next guy will exit, and then 2 guys will get up again. Punch 1. You'll notice what I meant by squat versus flinch, right? Like they're not squatting down nice and light, nice and slow. This is a flinch or a twitch into our position. You could see the difference between the 2 guys actually, right? The guy on the right and the guy on the left. One's more squatty, one's more twitchy. The guy on the right is what we want to emulate. This isn't a bad job, but we want to be as sudden and violent as we can. And ideally, we'll hold this a little bit longer. And I'll show you a better clip of it in a second.
So there's a real slap down of that foot, isn't it? Violent, get all your spikes in the ground, and then... It's
violent. You got to think, if you're running full speed, we're running a 16-yard comeback. Okay, you're running a 16-yard comeback, and you got to work back downhill this way. And the only way to be able to do so is you have to absorb so much force to decelerate that you need to put your feet in the ground. Now, we don't want to when we're running these things at full speed, anything we do at full speed, the thinking is gone. But when we're doing our trigger step drill, like it's force into the ground. It's all my spikes are in the ground. You can't pitter patter and get out of break points efficiently.
And for someone who's not done this before, what kind of one of the things I'm thinking there is there's a lot of impact going into that foot from pace. Have you got anything? And I don't want to derail you too much. Anything to work on, or is it just repetition on this? You know,
it's repetition, but the repetition does not have to be full intensity.
Okay.
You understand? You know what I mean? If
So
you're
those
not
EDDs are teaching you to get there, and then
he does not have to go 75. He doesn't have to go 100% out the gate. He can go 70. We can go 75%, but we're still working the rhythm of the break point. We're still working finding the body mechanics of the break point and stuff like that. The other thing is like the younger the guy, the more they can go full speed because they can't produce much force anyway. You know what I mean? Like an 11-year-old can only produce so much force, you know, and most of the time you can only produce as much as you can absorb. So we haven't had that issue. I mean, it's a fair thought though, but we just haven't had it. Like we haven't had the issue. It's interesting. I don't know why. I don't know how we haven't. But
maybe I'm looking at it as an older offensive lineman, thinking, "Oh, my knees are bloody buckle doing that."
If we had an offensive tackle doing this, we'd be in trouble.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know what it's like to be a fit young athlete. Then maybe that's the problem, Mike.
We've got some 255 tight ends that can do this pretty damn well, though.
Yeah.
So you'll see him. He controls it a little bit better, which is what we're looking for. You'll notice he fixed this pretty quickly, but you'll notice like this slight. I don't know if you guys could see it. This slight
like head and chin come up a little
bit. Correct. That's that abrupt change of height, right? You'll notice the gradual rise from acceleration to max velocity, but now that is what we're trying to eliminate. Now that takes a really, really high level DB to identify it, but he's going to see them. Like you're going to, the higher you play, the more disciplined those DBs are going to be. We want to eliminate it. On the contrary, though, like he does a great job controlling this, resetting. And then here's some high school guys doing it. Controlled. We don't care about steps. We want to find that body position. The steps will take care of themselves as you're able to produce and absorb more force.
Yeah, so because you're not talking about breaking down or anything there. Listen, it's not the point. You're not saying, oh, it has to be this amount of steps. It's
right.
That violent step and then your body in the right position and the rest will just happen.
100%. 100%. Like the way we present this to the guys, like we say the drill is the route. The drills have to be the routes. I tell them you're not running a drill at that cone. You're running a route. You're not breaking anywhere. Like mentally, like that's how I want them to view this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially the younger guys, because younger guys sometimes the drill work they get kind of carried away with it. Oh, and here's like we'll finish with a pat and go, just nice and smooth exit, kind of chilling out. This young kid does a great job catching it above his shoulder, tracking his eyes to it. Same thing. So these are all shapes, sizes, different skills. Everybody's able to do it. It's strictly because they put the time and the reps in. Like we got some really good athletes we work with that don't look as clean and comfortable simply because they just are newer and they haven't put that time and those reps in. Route running is a skill. Skills improve with reps. I tell the guys all the time, how often do you think Mozart played the piano? Probably every day, right? It was important to him. Playing the piano is a skill. So that's how we present this stuff to these guys.
And that's why, people every year you look at like wide receivers and you look at who's in that top 10, 8, 9, 10. Well, there's no coincidence. Calvin Ridley came into the league and he's become one of the best receivers. DJ Moore, very similar. But Keenan Allen, always preferable there. Great athletes, don't get me wrong, but just polished route runners. This is the second nature to them. Julio is always going to do it because he's a freak.
Yeah,
and you've got to respect
Julio. What makes Julio is he's a freak like all the other guys, but he's a freak and can run routes. Like he can run the whole tree as well as anybody in the league. That's what makes Julio. And if you look at DK Metcalf's rookie season to his last year, his route running, he's a different human. Like he's always going to be a freak, but the reason he took that huge jump is because he improved so much as a route runner from year 1 to year 2 that when you have that freakish athletic ability and you pair that with work ethic and skill, I mean, it's literally the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
Okay. So now progression from that, we're talking about red light, green light drill. Literally exactly what it sounds like. Guys do better on this one than the regression, which we just showed, the short to long drops, because there's no thinking. Okay. And what I mean by that is they're going to get a go that initiates their vertical stem. They're going to get a drop call. Okay. So they don't know when the break is coming. They have to react. Okay. And they're able to just twitch down and find that body position. The cool thing about this is in all these drills, the break mechanics are exactly the same. So the coaching cues don't really change a ton. They're hearing them over and over and over and over again. We still want our whole foot in the ground. We still want our hips down. We still want our chest over. Still want our arms tight. Here's a Villanova receiver and Julio Jones. Damn near same exact position. Okay, this is, people can get in them. It just takes reps and reps and reps. Mike, like you were saying, you can vary the tempo. This does not need to be done at maximal intensity, especially with guys who are uncomfortable with it. You're going to marry the break. Often issues with this is guys will trigger, take one step, and they're upright again. Well, just like in a break point, if I stand tall before I drive out, call it an energy leak, you're losing speed. Okay, we want to marry the break until you get the next go. If you're doing this with your buddies or you're a coach and you're doing it with your team, hold out the go drops, like make them marry and hold the break point and hold that position before attacking into the next rep, if that makes sense. And I'll show you the drill in a second. And like I said before, this is a route. You're running a break point without an exit, without a break.
And I suppose the best thing about this for coaches and then for players, I mean, very rarely, at no point have you mentioned catching the footballer. Like, really, throughout all this. So all this can be done in lockdown, in your back garden, in a field. None of it really dependent on somebody being able to put the ball in the right spot. So even if you've got your dad coming along with you or, whatever your buddy, like, they can just put that ball and underarm throw it to you because it's all about the technique.
100%. We at our sessions, we don't spend, like, the guys know you come early and you come later if you want to do direct hands work. Like, we don't have the time in sessions to do just standing there and catching, because to me, that's something that you don't need a coach to get better at. You want to catch, go catch. You know what I mean? That, like, and if you have a hard time, film your hands, put a camera behind you when you catch the ball, see where your hand placement is. I'll field some questions on that stuff, some drill work for catching at the end. But to me, catching to get better at catching, catch. Like, catch different things, catch different size balls, just catch different things. That's I don't think it's rocket science to me personally, just from my experience. So here's the red light, green light drill. It'll be initiated. You'll hear a coach will say go. So you get go, you get drop. Controlled, foot in the ground, hips are down. You'll get go, you'll get drop. Don't need to come to a complete stop, but need to be controlled. Need to be ready to drive out. Go, drop. And you'll notice he's in full control. He doesn't just drop, stand tall, and go again. He's in the break until he gets the next go. High school kid, go, drop. Go, drop. And just here's the same kid that just ran that exact drill. Watch his break point. Very, very similar body position. Hard to tell because it's from behind, but it's hips are dropping, chest is over.
The fact that you can't see his head says it all.
Yeah. He's a very, very skilled 14-year-old kid, though. He works really hard. And then here's a hard break on a post curl. Trigger, 1, 2, 3, out. Routes change, breaks stay the same. Routes change, breaks stay the same. Master the routes. Master the breaks, learn the routes, if that makes sense. If you could sink your hips, you can run a curl, you can run a comeback, you run any route that involves your hips dropping, you can run. If you could speed cut, you can run any route that involves a speed cut. So here's the final drill that will work before getting to full route work is just the top of route. We call them hallway or rope drills. We'll make a break point hallway out of jump ropes to give the guys a lane to run through, and I'll explain the importance of that in a second. This is where we put everything together. We're treating it like it's the full route. It's just condensed. We want to finish negative when we can, and no energy leaks, meaning I'm not standing tall before I drive out. I'm not leaving the break before my appropriate foot is in the ground. Am I losing speed? If so, why? Those are questions we want to ask. The drill set up about 4 to 6 yards away from the hallway, alternating which foot is up. What this does is it'll change what foot you trigger on. So if I have my left foot up every single time, I'm going to trigger on the same foot every single time because the depth of the ropes isn't changing. When I switch my feet, I'm going to trigger on my left foot one time, on my right foot another time. And what that does is it prepares you to drop on either foot. Get a 4-step break or a 3-step break at any time. Because in football, you're not going to be able to plan what foot you trigger on. There's too much stimulus going on. There's a lot of stimuli from different areas. You can hear something from the crowd, which might change your stride, might change where your foot strikes in your vertical step. So being able to trigger on either foot is super important. And then accelerating through the ropes prior to the reception. We tell whoever's throwing at our sessions not to throw the football until these guys exit the ropes completely to ensure that they are running through their break points. So here we go. We got 2 jump ropes here. I believe this is actually a 90-degree break that we just put negative, if you can see the angle of the ropes here. So rather than just keeping them completely flat, this forces guys to get back downhill a bit on a 90-degree break.
Just for anyone watching who doesn't know, why would you have it coming back towards in that sense as opposed to just straight?
Okay, so here we go. Great question. And I'll get a better clip up here for you guys at the end. But let's just say, let me. I want to show you a better clip. Can I table that and come back to it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure.
Cool. Because I have a really good clip to show of it. But let's just see, and we might get one that comes up actually in the presentation, and I'll bring it up. But just watch, like this is the exact foot cadence that we would use in a break point. It's just shortened. So now rather than running a 15-yard dig, we're kind of experiencing it at full speed, just shortened essentially. Technically, we're not going to be at the same velocity we would be at because we're only accelerating for 5 yards rather than 15. But we're still working that foot cadence, that rhythm, the body mechanics prior to the full route. Punch 1, 2, runs out. Punch 1, 2, 3, runs out. So in my head as a coach, after the snap down drill, the snap 1, 2, the snap 1, 2 rotation, after the short to long drops, after the red light, green light, after the top of route hallway drill, these guys have run this route 100 times before we even got to the full route. The beauty of it is the intensity of it is not the same as running a 15-yard dig. Their legs are still fine because all of it was shortened sub-maximal repetitions. If we ran 20, you try to get better at running a comeback and run 20 comebacks. By comeback number 8, your hamstring is going to be hanging off the bone. Okay? This is a great way to get a ton of reps in through multiple different drills prior to getting the full route.
I love how you've got 4 receivers there, none of which look alike in any way whatsoever. However, the only thing they all have as a similarity is that breakdown. The only thing, if I was looking at those 4 receivers, said what do they all have in common? The only thing is the breakdown.
Awesome point, Coach. And if you even knew them, the athletic profiles of them, like they're completely different. Like completely, some guys are a little bit twitchier than others, but they still find their position. You know what I mean? Everybody's hips are down, everybody's chest is over. One guy might be lower. One guy might have his chest over more, but they're still hitting those landmarks that we're looking for. It's a great point. And then those are some college guys or some high school guys going at a slower tempo. This is something to be weary of. Guys will start like angling their vertical stem to the hallway. You'll see if you see what I mean. You know, we want this straight here. Straight, you'll see they'll start angling in. It's not the end of the world, right? You're still working a break point, but it's just something to be aware of.
If you start to see that, other than telling him, could you just put a cone at a straight line?
We normally do have a cone. I don't know why we didn't have one this day.
Okay.
I also like to have it down a line though too. Like I'll put it right down a line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I'll put the hallway here. And now we know that they're vertical. If that makes sense.
Good point.
Guys, lines on the field are great. They're great because now you can also identify like this would be a perfect place for it because now you could tell them, okay, you got to catch the ball on the other side of the white line to make sure you're getting negative. Same drills. All right, so last drill, and this is more like just something to do. We don't do this every day. We'll do this in bigger groups. We'll do this when we're not working any hard breaks that day, just to kind of keep the motor pattern fresh. So we call this box 45, 45, 90. You're working 3 break points in one drill. You got this should be 2 45s and 190. Okay, 2 45s and 190. Marry the break. The thing about this is this very quickly turns into guys dancing around cones rather than working the break mechanics. And I'll explain what I mean. And tempo is completely arbitrary. We are trying to work, very true, trying to work the break point mechanics. Punch 1, 2, punch 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, it's all determined by what foot you snap on, nothing else. So here we go. 2 guys going at the same time. We got a cone. They're about 5 to 6 yards apart. Cone. We're going to have attack, 45, attack, 45, attack, 90. Same thing, both sides. And watch their cadence. Punch 1, 2. Punch 1, 2. All in the same. It's not about the speed. It's about what does the route look like? What does this drill look like?
Again, so different body types, different profiles, but like synchronized swimmers on that, on those corners.
Yeah. And here's just an example of a 45. Attack, trigger, rotate, right? He's completely turned. Now watch him. He's able to run out of this thing. He's able to run out. So comebacks especially, these things are a race to the sideline. Him rotating in the break point affords him the ability to just run out of the break. If he were still facing this way, it'd be really hard for him to get back downhill. So he's working a little hesitation here. Trigger 1, 2, 3. All right, so any questions on the hard breaks before we move on to speed cuts? Speed cut it's going to be a little bit quicker than the hard breaks.
Yeah, they've got, like I said, these guys are a couple of seconds behind, so we'll wait for any questions. But I think one of the questions I had in teaching that,
yes, sir.
how much it's difficult to quantify, but just from seeing that, you can imagine it just puts on so much improvement on their game just from teaching that. And I've never heard something like that described so simple. So no, so almost
I was gonna put. This is all through trial and error. Like this, literally 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, all these drills look different. Like they didn't look this way. Like we've just found through trial and error, like drills that they've grown and they've evolved, if that makes sense. Like it wasn't always this simple, and the drill didn't always translate as well. But just through years of experience and stuff, we've kind of found ways to make them more specific, and I think we found a really good system. Like this is our hard break system, and doing these drills has just made guys more comfortable and better in their break points. Like everybody, it's just a matter of the reps and the time they put in.
And how quickly, and just on that, from let's say somebody who's never run a route before, because that happens in the UK, maybe unbeknownst to yourself, but yeah, we get guys turning up and never run a route before, never played the game before. How often can you get somebody, with this kind of thing? What would you see as the timeline for them to be, getting in those break points and then looking like they're looking on those videos?
It's super individualized. But we've had based on the athlete too, it's like super individualized, and it's also how much time are they willing to put in. We've had guys that came to group sessions 2 weeks, 3 times a week. By the end of the second week, they're a different human.
Yeah. I suppose I was kind of teasing that answer out here because I can see from what that is. I can imagine not for myself, but somebody who is that athletically way inclined, I would look at somebody who can break like that as, I would call them a good receiver. And they all look like professional receivers. And obviously, the British game, you're not always going to see that other than at the elite level. But I think something like this, hopefully, we'll see a massive change in terms of the caliber of receiver, because it's so simple. For me, it seems simple and simple enough to implement, put in the work. And then, like you said, you become a different receiver. Because we're seeing guys on there, for me, who are getting open, who necessarily maybe on a one-on-one wouldn't have got open without that. It's probably fair to say.
What you said, there are some of these guys are not tremendous athletes.
Yeah.
But if you can make it look like you're running full speed, if you're running full speed and you can stop, that's half of the battle as a receiver.
Whatever your full speed is.
Yeah, whatever it is, because he can't not respect it, because if you get a step on him, the ball can drop in at any time. You know what I mean? Like the reception area on a vertical doesn't have to be 40 yards down the field. Does that make sense? So if the DB's slow playing it, and the ball could literally drop at any time. You know what I mean? Rule number 1 is a wideout, and I'm upset I didn't put this on the presentation. You have to make him chase you. And then if you take out all the indicators and you can jam the brakes the way some of these guys are jamming the brakes, you win. Yeah. Because now it's just who runs the route better. A, we work on break points a lot more than they do. And B, we know where we're going and he doesn't. So when you take that indicator out of it, that reaction time added to our ability to get out of the break better than they are, we're in the advantage. You know what I mean? Really
get it. Do you want to quickly then? Don't appear to any questions coming in for now. Do you want to quickly run through the speed cut side of things then, if possible?
Yeah, the speed cuts will be a little bit quicker. Are we rushed for time, or are we what time do you want this to be over at?
Whatever. To be fair, we've got nothing booked in till ideally. Awesome. This is one of my last ones, so for the first time, doesn't matter. Let's get this done right, and then that's cool. I know Wayne's popped up and he might have to go, but other than that, that's fine. I'm enjoying it.
So speed cuts, you got to take everything we just spoke about, except for indicators, throw it out the window. Completely different break point. Okay, this is run and roll. It's like turning bike handles at the top of the route. We're going to use a speed cut when there's cushion at the break point. Okay, cushion at the break point, meaning we got a 6-yard speed out cold. The DB's at 8 and bailing and off man. I don't need to break down for anything. Let's roll this thing over. If the ball's on time, the DB's late. It's literally that simple. It's no different than routes on air for us. Now, there are obviously situations where it's a little bit more complex, but a lot of times you have this easy access in your offense. So long as you don't give any indicator, you start leaning early, chopping your strides, it's easy offense. So we like to say run and roll, no loss in speed. And with that, what comes with the no loss in speed and the less is more, I'm not slamming my foot in the ground here, okay? The reason it's called a speed cut, because you're not losing speed from your first step to the reception, okay? The reason that we are afforded to not lose speed is because we're not getting flat immediately, okay? If I was sticking my foot at the ground at the 10-yard line, I had to get flat down the 10-yard line on one step, I'd have to slam that thing, ton of force in the ground. It'd be really difficult. But with the speed, yeah, probably not the safest thing either. But with the speed cut, you're able to gain ground in the break point because of the cushion at the top of the route. Okay, that is what affords us to run through and maintain our speed through the break point. No change in stride prior to rolling. That's a huge one. And then as we roll, we want to get our chin to that collarbone, help pull us downhill. Examples of this would be in and out breaker. No change in stride, referring to our arms and our legs. And we're going to watch some film of these as well. So here's an example. I think this is 2003 Super Bowl. Darrell Jackson got a quick out from the numbers. Vertical, 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 roll. Arm action does not change. Less is more. He's given cushion at break point. I don't need to break this thing down. If the ball's on time, DB's late. Every single time. What not to do. So we speak about indicators, okay? Wide out to the left of your screen. You're going to watch him start to lean right now. He's going to start to lean before he rolls. DB's already out of his break. We're not even out of ours, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it ends up in a pick. This one was not on Jameis, one of his 50. I remember watching this game too. I think I started him in fantasy. I was pissed. Ted Ginn, top of your screen. We talk about less is more, running right through the break. Watch Ted Ginn at the top here. Runs right through this thing. Arm action never changes. It also helps when you're a 4-3 guy. But arm action never changes. Runs right through the break point. Oftentimes, these routes, speed cut routes, out routes, they'll be off a step count. Doesn't have to be. You can have a final depth as well, but these are often off a step count because they're so rhythmic. Either one is fine. But this is like the textbook speed cut. Run, roll, arms keep running, chin on my collarbone. Ideally, he'd get a little bit flat there. I think we're going to have a negative rep soon. Here's an example of one of our guys. Now, this is the caveat of the speed cut here. This is what we call a snap speed cut, where you put a little bit more force in the ground because you got a cover defender hipped with you, okay? If I were to speed cut this and gain ground like a normal speed cut, he gets flatter with a little bit more urgency because he puts his foot in the ground because he's hipped. If I were to speed cut like a regular speed cut and gain a lot of ground, it opens him up for an undercut. So just deciphering between the two, not the point of this presentation, but this clip had popped up. I like to mention it. When you get a cover defender hipped, you don't need to break down, but if you're going to speed cut it, you're going to put a little bit more force in the ground because you need to get flat with a little bit more urgency. Okay, imagine if you're turning bike handles on a regular speed cut, you're taking a wide turn. On this snap speed cut, you got to turn with a little bit more force. So some drill work for our speed cut. We call this the crease drill. Objective here, it's called the speed cut. We maintain speed through the whole thing. In order to do so, our arm action can't die. Most common thing on speed cuts, you're going from here, and once you roll, boom, they die or they stop pumping. They stop pumping, you lose momentum. We should be running right through them. You can use cones to make a circle, or you can use a circle on the field. Long Island, like lacrosse, is the #1 thing. So we have lacrosse creases on every single field. Finish with the ball, you could change the angle of the throw. I like the crease because if you can run your arms around this thing, you can run your arms through a speed cut. Simple, looks silly, it works. So this same kid, I believe the next clip is going to be him running a speed cut. Arm action runs through the entire thing. We want the elbow to clear the spine in our arm action. All right, so Michael Thomas first. I believe he's next. This is my favorite speed cut clip ever. Michael Thomas is number 3 in trips right now. Vertical. Sorry, let me slow that down for you. Vertical, 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 vertical. Frozen before his speed cut. Okay? His cover defender is not even on the screen. So all him breaking down right now would give the DB time to break on the route. There's no need to break down. On 90-degree breaks, the only time you're really going to square cut is if scheme dictates it, meaning let's say you're running dagger concept, which is seam on the inside, dig on the outside. If you speed cut that dig, you might be getting super tight to that seam, if that makes sense. And then you could even go further and say, well, if you're to the field, now you got more room, you might be able to roll your dig. If you're to the boundary, you might have to square cut it just to allow that to clear out. Same thing with double in breakers, things like that. That's really the only time you're going to square cut a dig. The other example would have been the Julio Jones clip earlier, which you had asked about when he got on him really quick. You can't speed cut that because of the proximity to the DB. If we roll that and gain ground, we're going to collision. So that's another example where like, oh, I'm attacking. I got to snap that thing down because I got to get flat with a little bit more urgency. And when you're 20 yards downfield, good luck trying to speed cut that thing. I mean, it's a big ask. It's a tall ask. So back to this vertical, 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 frozen. So you're frozen right before he rolls. Now, right now you can kind of tell because it's a little bit of a slight overstride. But up until that point, there's no indicator. And now watch his arm action. Does not skip a beat. The arm action is maintained throughout the entirety of it. He gains ground, turns the bike handles, right? Turns the bike handles. The amount of ground you're going to gain, scheme dependent, situation dependent. If the DB is super far off, you're able to gain some. Reception area dependent, right? He's got a low route underneath him. If he were to flatten this with urgency, this guy has the opportunity to possibly tail off and make a play on it, right? This guy might have the opportunity to tail off and make a play on it. So he's going to gain ground here, turns bike handles, maintains the speed. He works back negative a tiny bit. I'm going to pull up a clip before this is all over and show you guys a really good clip of finishing negative. And here's the kid that was running around the lacrosse crease. Runs right through it. Another example. Cushion at break point, win with speed, balls out in front. The DB's late every time.
So this is more for your shorter routes. This.
You can run it on 15-yard outs. You can run it on. You can run it on. It's any outbreaker where there's cushion at the break point. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but the only question I had is if this is a speed out and it's quicker, why do we have the full breaker if this is quicker?
The two reasons being scheme dependent. Okay, so you can't speed cut because like we just spoke about.
Yeah.
Or the other one, let me pull up the Julio clip just because it'll paint a much better picture. Cannot speed cut here. You know why?
Yeah, because it'll run into him.
100%. This is bang, right? If he outside released this and the DB was here, he might be able to snap speed it. But in this case scenario, with this tight proximity, there's not much cushion. We gotta snap this thing. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the beauty of it is you are attacking so much, he's gonna continue this way if you don't give an indicator. Does that make sense?
Get you, yeah.
Good question. Great question, actually. All right, so moving on to the next speed cut drill. It's what we call 3x3 pressure step drill. You're going to get about 3 to 5 cuts every single rep. Same objectives. You want to maintain speed throughout the entirety of it, maintain arm action throughout the entirety of it. You're going to pressure step or speed cut on every third step. We shouldn't hear thuds. If I had my eyes closed in a perfect world, I shouldn't be able to tell which one is your pressure step. Because when you put that – yep.
Sorry, Mike. We've just had a question coming from John, and I know you've just moved on from this one. So any estimation of the turning circle? Because obviously in the UK we've got soccer fields. That's got a radius of about 10 yards. So is that too big?
I think it would be okay. I think it would be okay. John, find me on Instagram. Shoot me a picture of it in my DMs or Facebook, and I'll give you some feedback on it.
Perfect. Okay. But I mean, but that lacrosse one was about 3 yards, 3 yard radius. Is that right? So you could do it with cones.
I would say 5.
Okay, so you could do it with cones anyway if you don't know the actual circle. So
you can get big like speed hoops as well. So you can get like
the D line uses
yeah.
Yep, that's a great idea. Some college coaches actually do that. No thuds. So like I was saying, like increase force in the ground increases ground contact time. So unlike what we were talking about before, we don't need a ton of force in the ground here. We had mentioned before, if you needed to get flat at where you're rolling, you'd have to slam the foot in the ground. But since we're able to gain ground, it affords us the ability to just roll off that foot without slamming it, if that makes sense.
But that's why we let them bend it. It's unrealistic to think they can do anything, get square. We have to let them bend it.
Correct. So here's that 3x3 pressure step. The guy's arms are going to be maintained, arm action maintained, speed maintained throughout the entirety of it. So now you're just finding that rhythm of now it's not a 90-degree speed cut, but you're still finding that rhythm of putting the foot in the ground without slamming it. You're finding the rhythm of keeping the arm action. You're finding the rhythm of maintaining speed throughout the entirety of the drill. I think the main thing here is guys are learning to redirect without slamming that foot.
That's a different route, isn't it?
So you get a lot of reps and a lot of cuts in one rep.
Yeah, I like it.
And once again, it doesn't have to be full speed.
So it's really maximising the limited time you might have. It's a really great way for both of those. All the drills seem to be really condensed and combined, which is really good for the UK because we don't have guys, 5 times a week. We have EDDs, and that might only be 30 minutes a session. So this is really combined in terms of teaching. And like you said, catching your own time, catch anything, was a really good way to teach those the two key cuts, really.
Yeah, we try to do a lot in the sessions. I'm so fortunate because in the private sector, like I coach high school ball too, and we don't get to do all this in practice. Just like you said, like we just don't get to. We only get X amount of minutes for Indy, and setting this stuff up takes forever. But in the private sector, well, not forever. You just have to get out about 10 minutes early. But the private sector, our college sessions run like 2.5, 3 hours. So we get a lot of stuff in. I'm very fortunate in that sense. But like you said, like you could do 1 or 2 of these in Indy because it's just nonstop. You know what I mean? Like if we go back to this, we'll have guys here, a guy throwing, and then we'll have guys on the opposite end of the field doing the same thing. So we have 2 lines going at the same time to save some time and get some extra reps in.
Yeah, but you're for the amount of time receivers will spend running routes, well, if they're not running them with the efficiency of what's happening here, then there's no point in running the route, is there? Like I said, there's no point. You're not going to be open, and there's no point in practicing catching unless you can break and get separation. So fundamentally, it's
yep. The way I like to put it is, if you're running full speed bad comebacks, they're going to stay bad. You know what I mean? You're like, you don't learn an algebra problem before learning multiplication. It's same concept. So second to last drill for our speed cuts, we call this our half loop drill. We're kind of putting it all together now. We're going to actually run the out. Treat it like the full route, but the tempo can vary. I like to put this as a bike track for the guys. meaning you're turning your bike handles in the hallway. First rep, we're running through that hallway. It's your time to focus on, I need to rip that elbow back. I need to get that chin on my collarbone. I need to not reach. The second rep, you're going to reset and run a full 3 to 4 step quick out. So here's an example. Here's that bike track. And then there's another cone set up somewhere out here for them to reset and run the full thing.
And you could do that with your skipping ropes the same as what you had before if you've got the same.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Just to use the same stuff.
So same thing. Here's the Ted Ginn rep. So I love this drill. Like, this is beginner stuff. Like, this is the stuff that we'll do with guys who are first learning to speed cut, and then we will progress. So here's just some more examples of speed cuts before we progress into the last one, which is a little bit more advanced. Just running and rolling, right? Like, not slamming that foot in the ground. Arm action, maintain. I love this rep of Julio here. Watch him snap his chin. Two things that I didn't mention yet. Watch him snap his chin on his right collarbone after he rolls. Helps pull him flat. Helps him find the football. Okay, so watch him snap his chin on his right collarbone. Pulls him flat, finds the football. Okay, and now watch him rip that left elbow back to maintain his arm action. Rolls, rips the left back. You guys see what I'm referring to? Those are two main keys. The thing you need to be wary of is telling a kid that while he's still learning to roll, because then the roll is going to be out the window. You know what I mean? You got to make sure that he's able to roll off that foot, and then you can't fix the arms and the cut at the same time. You got to pick one and then progress, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so here's the last drill. Okay, this is a little bit more advanced. It's 2 cuts in one. So when you do it with younger guys, you'll start seeing guys leaning, start chopping their strides a little bit. This is what we call our full loop. Once again, love lines, love using lines. I'll explain why. You're going to maintain stride and speed throughout the entirety of the rep, just like a speed cut. Avoid chopping stride, and this goes for every drill. Avoid chopping your strides or reaching to meet the demands of the cones. Go past the cones, break before the cones, make it work without altering your stride. And give ample space between the 2 cuts to allow guys to open that stride up before their second cut. So here's an example. This one takes a long time. It takes about 6 minutes to 5 to 6 minutes to set up. But it's once it gets set up, it just never stops. It never stops. Guys are getting 2 speed cuts per rep. So we got a hallway here. You'll get a better view of the setup in the next clip. But just watch the guys running and rolling. So love lines, 2 reasons. First reason, when we're going this way, you can use this line. So you got to get negative down this one when you exit. Got to get negative down this when you exit. The other reason is you can use this sideline, throw the ball late, and get a little toe tap working as well. So beautiful, bang for your buck, beautiful. You can see a little bit better setup here. Minimum 10 yards, I'd say, between the 2 cuts. That's why the lines are great. Just because now guys can get full stride, they can reestablish vertical before their next cut.
And I suppose one of the things we're running on lines often, and I know a bit of feedback before, but well, that doesn't happen in the game. Well, you can start to visualize that line if you're used to running on it. For me personally, I play golf, so when I'm putting, I can visualize a line, and then when I practice, I will practice on the line. Surely that's the same thing. You just kind of visualizing where it would be, and then you just stick it to that.
That's an awesome analogy. Awesome analogy. And the other thing is, like, if you've just done this 1,000 times and you just continuously finish negative, it's going to just become second nature. It's the only way you're going to be able to speed cut because you've done it so many times.
Yeah.
Some examples, speed cuts. Bang. Now you'll see guys put a little bit more force in the ground from the X or outside receiver position because there's less room and time for them to gain ground, if that makes sense. So they might have to be a little bit more urgent in how flat they get or when they get flat. Still gains yards. He's still gaining yards here, right? He's still gaining 3 yards.
And that's really up to the receiver then, is what I'm hearing from you. So if that receiver was tighter, just to reconfirm my knowledge more than anything, we would do the slap cut, as I would call it, where I slap my foot in the ground, breaking down 2-3, and then cutting out.
Correct.
Whereas this one.
So he gets to the top of the route. Let's say, so pre-snap, I'm speed cutting this because there's so much cushion. But let's say the top of the route now, he squares up and now he's playing catch at 10. Mm-hmm. That shit's out the window. You can't speed cut anymore. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. So now you got to have a different plan. It's a whole different conversation. You could heat him up, stick your right foot in the ground, heat him this way, and then snap it. You know what I mean? So there's different things. But this is strictly cushion versus break point, rolling it over. If he gets to the top of the route now and the DB standing outside leverage, standing here, crossover running, well, he better snap this thing off because if he rolls it, he might get tight to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, I just like the way that the DB has to turn his hips in case you're going to run past him.
Yep.
That DB had to switch his hip angle, and then he had to come down on it. So like it's making him second guess again what you're going to do, even though you're curling the root sort of thing.
Well, the rule. So here's the beauty of this. Like rule number one,
he's had to open up there.
Rule number one, he opens up because of the way he attacks in his vertical stem. It has to be shot out of a cannon. We have to attack. Vertical stem is attack mode. Like we have off coverage. Like you see, like young kids like work some dumb stuff here. They're trying to be fancy. Hell no. Run and roll. Attack.
Like you're gonna go through him.
You have to threaten. That's our biggest weapon is the fact that he does not want us. I keep trying to write on the screen here. He does not want us to go this way. So if we attack here, he's going to go that way because he's protecting it. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Yeah.
And then of our guys. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say in both situations. So with the violent step, we've almost got the natural reaction of him being scared because it's like someone's attacking you, if that makes sense, but in a close proximity. So that's where we saw that little jump back before, didn't we, from the DB? And on that one, his natural instinct is to protect that deep. So he has to almost give you that. So then the speed cut works for underneath. Yeah, get it.
Yep. So just some of our guys, just because, like I said, I don't like just showing NFL guys doing stuff because anybody can be up here and do that. Just some of our guys just running and rolling. That's Division I and Division I starter, Division I starter. Good on good. I think this kid's his application is in to go to Leeds Beckett, actually.
Nice.
Oh, great.
Don't fancy playing them.
He's a great kid. And just same thing.
No.
Nothing new. I'm going to keep my screen share. I'm going to stop and then reshare my contact info in case anybody wants it. Let me see here. Sorry. So there's my contact info. If you guys can you guys see it?
Yeah.
There's my contact info. If anybody wants it, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We do some work with multiple teams in Europe virtually, kind of going over the same stuff, but kind of reviewing film. There's a couple teams we work with where we watch their practice film and coach them up. We watch their game film and coach them up. I'm going to try and get overseas in January. I know the team I played for is going to bring me out. And I'm going to stay out there for like a month and see if I can work with multiple teams just because I love the game over there and I love the people over there. But it's been an absolute pleasure to come on and speak. I'd love to continue to do so whenever you guys have these things. I hope you guys felt that it was worthwhile and you guys learned some stuff. So yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
100%. You've got Dale Bottomley, the Leeds head coach, now saying great talk, coach, very useful. So he'd be looking forward to seeing this guy, new receiver coming over.
Yeah, I'm assuming the application will go after this video, and we'll definitely catch up for a more. We'll do a more informal one about you and where you're at, and on the other show where we can swear and chat and throw down a little bit more.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds good. Sounds good.
no, it was an absolute pleasure, Mike. That was probably one of my favourites. I was so engrossed in that. It was really useful to see, and really really good to see how it's done and the simplicity of it. It never came through for me, and just so you know. All the love coming through now. Great coach. Thanks, great talk. Superb coach. Thanks, coach. So, just shows the level of interest and intrigue into what you were saying there. And I'm sure if BAFCA don't, we'll definitely have you back next year. And we'll definitely do something, man.
I'd love it. That'd be a blast.
Yeah, no, honestly, Mike, great coach, great coaching talk. I think everyone watching is going to have learned a lot through that.
Awesome.
So,
thank you guys
I'll
so
have him
much for
back
having
next
me.
week, mate, everyone.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll
look, I could talk about this all day. So if you guys want me on, I'm on. I love this stuff. So
yeah, no, it's really really useful. I'm sure the national teams and stuff will be reaching out for that reason. And I've just shared that with our wide receiver coach as well. So I'm hoping when we go to training next week, I'm getting there 10 minutes early to help him set those drills up.
Might have to order some more cones too. We use a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm going to get some skipping ropes ordered now as well. Look, thank you very much for coming on. Mike, thank you very much for coming on. It was a pleasure. See you soon. Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Well, there we go. Another great talk. Yeah, I was lost then. It was so intrigued. I don't play receiver, never have. Well, my dreams are to play wide receiver. But yeah, it was a fantastic talk from a fantastic coach. So if you're just lagging behind. I can't hear a word you're saying, mate. Don't you worry about that. I think Adam. I think we all need to on the show. I'm going to do a GoFundMe page for Adam Wilkins Internet. He's now left the chat completely, so I'm going to set up that GoFundMe page for Adam Wilkins Internet. I don't know why he's still rocking Sky. His missus is always watching Love Island, so the bandwidth has fell out the backside of it. So, but thanks everyone so much for watching. Just to give you a complete rundown of where we're at so far. So we're probably just at the halfway point now of the coaching convention. We're kind of doubling down on a couple of sessions coming up. So we've got Patrick Moynihan, I hope I said that right, doing D-line long arm progression from Stanford University at 8 o'clock. Samuel Harkis doing introduction to run and shoot from Brisbane Ryan. So very defense, both released at 8 o'clock on BAFCA's page. Terry Summerfield doing tackling progression from Barlow High School at 9, as well as Frederick Moss Nielsen, QB coaching. We're going back again to QBs and development, who's a Sweden under-19s coach. And then 10 p.m. tonight, William Babington is doing press technique from Leeds Academy. Excellent coach, so make sure you check that one out. And then we're running right through to 11 o'clock tonight with Tom Hammett with pass rush techniques. He's from GB under 17s and 19s. And then we're back tomorrow. There's another full suite through of them tomorrow. Everything from explosive offenses, fundamentals for running backs, O-line pass protections. We've got a pre-recorded Jason Scott philosophy and game planning with it, which is a roundtable, which I was on the other night. So hopefully that'll be good. And obviously finishing tomorrow night with the one and only is coming home. So thank you very much, guys. We look forward to it coming home tomorrow night. It's been a pleasure. This is our last live one of the day, so we're going to go get some sleep. Good luck with the rest of the convention. Hope you all get better from it. And hopefully next year we'll catch you all in person.
Yeah.
See you then.
Take care, guys.
Cheers, Adam. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye. Cheers.